Hello, 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 everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, I'm so happy and grateful that we are on this call today and that we can actually meet and have this conversation. I feel like this conversation at this day and age, like this moment of time, it's super necessary and helpful and so needed. So thank you for being here. My name is Judy Galek. I'm a holistic anxiety coach. Welcome to our first ever 3 ways of overcoming anxiety. How we did it. It's going to be a series and more to come about that. So thank you. So this is the call with me and Karen Hedman, holistic mental wellness coach, and Jill Disser, mindset coach. Thank you so much. So we'll take a few minutes so each of us can introduce ourselves. And I also want to open it for the people we have on the call live with us. I want this to be very interactive. So at any point, if you have any thoughts, comments, whatever that comes up for you, please feel free to share. All right. Okay, go ahead, Karen. We'll have Karen go first.
Yeah, just so you guys know how we're structuring it, we're just each going to go around and share a little bit of our personal journey and how we overcame our struggles in different ways. And we're all very holistic. And so that was the journey for us. And it's such a personal journey. And so that's why we're opening ourselves up to you to begin the conversation, because it is often in isolation that we struggle, and there can be so many aspects of that because we want to put on a brave face. And I know that was true for me. And so a big part of my quote unquote healing was really being open and unashamed and starting to share how I feel with other people, and thinking that my experience was in isolation, that I thought other people had it all together. And I was the one really struggling. My journey started out very young, with a low level depression. I was a sweet child that was like wanted peace all around me. I would dance to try to like calm arguments in my midst, and really try to find peace. That was my nature. But I really started in my early teenage years experiencing more what felt like a heavy weight on me. It was definitely what I learned many, many, many years later was issues with depression. As I was living with that and struggling in that space, I started feeling anxious about what this meant for my life. I kept having these experiences like, am I ever going to be able to live a good life, a life that I feel proud of, I feel productive, without feeling like I'm always in this dark struggle bus that I'm putting on a brave face in public, but nobody really knows what I felt like. The real me was this like dark, struggly person that wasn't really the real me. That wasn't my true essence. And and so there was that struggle between just wanting to live a good life and feeling like my days were filled with, how do I get out of this? And over the years, when I eventually realized that I might actually have a condition, quote unquote condition, I sought therapy and had very bad experiences with that. It did not feel like the answer, but I was diagnosed officially and prescribed medication. And I was like, oh, there's something really wrong with me. It's not just me being messed up. Like there's an official something wrong with me. And I felt like, hey, this is a piece of the puzzle. There's really something wrong with me. I'm not just making this up. But I knew I didn't feel like medication was going to be an answer for me. But I was like, all right, I was kind of young and naive. I was trying to do everything naturally as for as long as I can remember. I was trying to do things naturally, but I wasn't seeing any results. And so I tried the medication, was on it for about a year, and ultimately it flattened me out. I care so much. I stopped struggling so much to feel good. I just cared less about feeling bad, was my experience. And for me, that was not what I wanted for the rest of my life. I I'd rather struggle and want to feel good than be flattened out and not really care. And so I eventually weaned myself off of the medication gradually. I learned how to do that and worked with a doctor to make sure I was doing that safely. But then I was like, okay, I'm feeling really bad again. What am I going to do? And I started doing research and I ran into a friend who said, I've been taking this thing and I shared it with my boyfriend and it's really helped him with the and high spectrum of emotion. Maybe you want to try it. And it had to do something with gut health, improving my gut. And when I started learning about the connection between the gut and the brain, it was a huge revelation to me. I had always struggled with constipation since I was a kid. It was just a slow digestion. And as I learned more over the years, I studied. I eventually became a mental wellness coach, which is something that you often do on your journey. You dive into what are the solutions. And as I started feeling better, I wanted to help other people shorten the span of their journey. And one other thing I really want to touch on is I knew a lot about things that would help me. Movement, getting out and walking, that's a huge piece. Eating whole foods, I knew I should be doing more of that, but I felt stuck. I felt like I didn't have the capacity. And when I started taking the supplementation was the answer for me to improve my gut health and that connection between the brain and the gut. And brain support, then I felt like I had greater capacity to show up in my life to do those things that also really move the needle, which is what I was just referencing, getting outside, moving my body, eating better foods, cutting out more of the crappy foods. And so that was the answer for me and building up my stress resilience. Those are some of the biggest aspects of ultimately what helped me and got me on this journey. I struggled for so many years. I want to help shorten that path for other people that have been struggling because I know there's a lot of people that manage with medication and they're fine with that. More power to you, whatever works. But I found that because I wanted to do it naturally and holistically, a lot of people try a lot of things for a long time that don't actually move the needle. And so they're struggling for years and years and years and years. And we don't need to, was the answer that I found. And so that's why I'm here. That's why I'm part of this group. And I'm so grateful for those of you that show up and still have that feeling like, hey, I want something better for myself. I don't want to be on the struggle bus my whole life. And I believe that in the context of this group or however you find support, we found answers and we can help you shorten that learning curve of what's going to make a difference for you.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, Karen. I love what you said this in the last sentence, shorten that learning curve, right? Because so many of us struggle for years before we actually find something that is helpful. And the other thing I heard you mention is that you had to take care of the symptoms first so you can get yourself to a point where you can physically feel better and start building up on what else can you do, like really taking care of that gut brain connection, right?
Exactly. Because I
Yeah.
didn't know beforehand that most of our brain chemicals, our neurotransmitters are in our gut. And when I learned that, that was like the first step of learning that. But yes, that was like, okay, if I can change what's happening there, and the science has come such a long way to support us in that in really
Mhm.
simple ways. Yeah, that was absolutely because part of my struggle, Judy, when you bring that up, it's like it's so close to home because it made it worse that I knew I could be doing things that would help me and I didn't feel like I had the capacity. I just remember being like paralyzed in this feeling like, I know I should get outside. Yeah, I know I should go for a walk. I know I should do these breathing things and not just fighting myself was a really hard aspect because I had information that I knew would help me and didn't feel like I could do it.
That's amazing. I love it. I love it. The other thing I heard, not your words exactly, but making a decision not to stay in that struggle bus. right? So first, just to break it down, what I gathered from what you said, you were not feeling well. You wanted to feel better, right? And decided to try something that you know could help you. So would you say that healing start with a decision?
Yeah, I think it does. It was I had a willingness and an openness to try because I was over for a long time over feeling bad. I felt like my life was slipping through my fingers. And so yes, I would say I'm a realist, but I'm also an eternal optimist. And so I didn't believe that I was put here to struggle my whole life. I felt like I had more to offer, even if it was in small ways. And because I felt so stuck, I didn't feel like I had the capacity at that time to offer my gifts into the world, even just the people I met, even if it wasn't on a grander scale. So, yes, having a willingness and, like you say, a decision, because a lot of the natural things or the tactics that we use to get better, they can take some time and consistency to notice a difference. And so, yes, I absolutely made a decision in those moments, even if it was something that ultimately wasn't the answer for me, that I was going to give it a shot. I was going to do it consistently is best I was capable. And that's why, when it came to the supplementation, I was, all right, this isn't me saying I'm going to go to the gym every day and struggling with that. It was something that I put in my mouth every day. And that for me was a step. It was something that was holistic. And I knew I could commit to that because it was an easy step. It was something small that I started to build. And I was like, oh, I'm feeling different. Maybe I can do this next step. Maybe I can take a little more time to make a meal that's better for me. Maybe I can push myself out the door into the sunshine and start a little walk and see how I feel, that kind of things. Yes, we have to show up for it in some little way at least in the beginning to start to build momentum.
I think that's
I
the
love
cue
that.
right there. I think
Yeah.
that's the cue because if we challenge ourselves too much, it's unrealistic and we can't meet those goals. And I think that's what we end up putting on ourselves and and we prove ourselves that we couldn't do it and it's no good. So setting those little goals and getting those little goals and saying, oh, I did do it. And then the next day, maybe just doing that same thing again until we say, okay, I can add this to it. And it's that mind focus doing that. That's the thing, Karen. I mean, when we're as low as we can be, we have to do that. We have to say, I've got to do something because we don't want to keep sinking.
Yeah.
It's the little
Yeah.
things. I love
It's
that.
that will to live.
Yeah,
Really,
exactly.
Yes.
like at a base level where sometimes we lose sight of that when we're sinking. And like you say, but then we'll have a glimmer of it again. It's like, I want to live. I want to really live, and to feel that impulse of nature is such a beautiful gift, even sometimes in our struggliest of times, it's like, there's
Yeah.
something that won't give up on me and to be able to appreciate that and then help feed it in the best that we can. And often that does happen in the support of others or in a conversation like what we're doing right here or just connecting with a friend that's willing to listen. I know we've spent a lot of time here on me and I want to hear your stories as well. But one thing I just heard recently was somebody sharing the impact of coming in to their friend and uh, just saying, like it was a tough day. And the friend said, do you want a hug or do you want help? Because sometimes we just want support, but sometimes we want somebody that's going to give us some feedback. And to be able to make that choice in that moment, I thought it was a lovely thing that I wanted to share because sometimes we just want to vent. We don't want somebody to try to give us the answers. And other times it's, yeah, what do you tell me something? What do you feel?
Yeah.
How can I?
I love it. I love it. It's such an important point to distinguish and discuss and really unpack because I know a lot of us we want the easy way, and the easy way is always the best way. But not only the easy way, we want someone else to do the work for us. Like we want to be saved, but understanding that there's a level of autonomy in it. Like we have to have the desire and the willingness to make the decision, that will to live you talk about, Karen, right? Like we have to have that, we have to want it. And I love that question your friend asked because yeah, absolutely. Do we want help or do we just want to vent? And both of them have their benefits, right? There's a time for each of them. All right, Jill. So let's move on to you. Let's hear from before I move on to Jill, does anyone else have questions for Karen? No? Okay. All right, awesome. So we'll move on to Jill. Jill, please share your story. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, so I too was very young when I was anxious and depressed, and my parents actually sent me to a therapist when I was very young, and I thought, what is the matter with me? I might have been 7 or 8 years old, and I still to this day don't understand what a 7 or 8 year old is doing going to a therapist. It's mind-boggling. So I kept thinking something's the matter with me growing up, and I was taught basically to have a mask, so no one really knew what was going on with me. I was very quiet growing up. I didn't share a lot, and as an adult, it carries over. So, okay in social situations, but a lot of people don't really know what's going on with me personally. I'm better now, but it takes a lot of work. When I got diagnosed in 2019 with breast cancer, and the anxiety came on big time. It hit me like a Mack truck, and I didn't really know what to do with it. I basically curled up in the fetal position on my couch when I wasn't working. And I continued to work every day because if I didn't go to work, I would have just stayed on the couch. So I worked. And while I was getting treatment, one of the nurses that saw me every day said, there's this group that does meditation and I think you should go. And it was online. And I thought, that's never going to work. First of all, it's online and it's with a group. And she said, just go, try it. And I did. And shockingly, it worked. I was just amazed. I found myself able to uh, be extremely receptive to what she was guiding me through. It brought me incredibly deep inside myself. And it was a mixture of going deep and the mixture of the group just being able to connect with that group. And so I just went every day. It was 5 days a week. And eventually I started writing my own meditations, and that helped me with my anxiety. I did it as my own therapy. And I ended up deciding to get certified and finding out all sorts of things about anxiety, taking classes and just doing research to better myself. The woman that ran the group eventually had to go back to work. It was during COVID, and she went back to work and asked me if I wanted to lead the group. And I've been leading it ever since, and started my own business with doing one-on-ones and groups. And I just recently put together a class, a 6-session class that I am going to be putting out there. But it has helped my anxiety. Helping other people has been the best cure for me. It's a selfish reason, but it has been my helping other people just helps me 100%. Not only from the research, but just seeing how it helps other people has been my cure. And it's an everyday thing. It doesn't mean that I don't have highs and lows. I absolutely do. But it keeps me grounded, and you know, it keeps me focused, and I just absolutely love what I do every single day. And again, I don't know where it came from and what my parents saw, but it's a work in process.
Jill, I thank you so much for sharing your story. And I see how you light up when you talk about how meaningful it is when you see somebody else have a transformation when you're working with them. And it's interesting, because I've gone back and forth with consistency with meditation, but how do you find it makes a difference doing it with other people and setting an intention, for example? How is that be part of the transformation that you experience and that you share with other people?
Well, setting intention is like the engine of the practice. So it's how you um, feel about yourself in the world. Um, you um, you how you start your meditation is how you feel about where you're going to be. We do that, but being in a group, your eyes are your eyes are not open, and you're in a group, and everybody is in their own space, but you're all doing it together. And there's something about that when it's a collective doing the same thing, but individually, there is a feeling of you can't even put it into words because you're using a different part of your brain. It's the right part of your brain. Your right brain, you don't have words. Your left part is the verbal part, which I'm using now, but your right part, you don't have words for. And that's where the meditation is coming from. So it's this collective all togetherness that is in a different realm, but it's this amazing connection. It's a connection. And one of the things I say is that you've got your pre-meditation face and your post-meditation face, and everyone starts and we talk at the beginning, and then at the end after meditation we talk, and it's a completely different face. It's all relaxed. It's an amazing feeling, and that's what we get out of that. Because in today's world we are so stressed, and to be able to walk away from that and to use that throughout your day, there's nothing like that.
Beautiful. I love that power of the intention, how you say that. I even after I asked it when you started answering, I'm like, oh yeah, that's just like what with Judy asked me is like that decision that it's where do I want to go? What do I want to feel? Thank you.
Yeah, and you really have to put weight into it. It's not, you really have to sit down and say, this is where I want to go. And it could be different every single day. It should be different every day.
I love that, Jill. Thank you so much for sharing, Jill. That's just amazing. I love the part where you mentioned that helping other people was the best therapy for yourself. And I teach what's called the focus. Like, where do you place your focus? It's if it's on yourself, on your anxious thoughts, like the thing that you're most worried about, how it's going to turn out, like all of these things. What is she thinking about, all those anxiety producing thoughts? When we shift our focus from that to something else, right? Like to someone else. You're not thinking about yourself in the moment. You're thinking about someone else. Like, how can you be of service to someone else? What would someone else benefit from this? How could you help? And that really, for me, I see it as like you shifted the focus, right? Like you took it from yourself and placed it someone else, and shifting that focus, even in meditation, like you're not focused on the thing that's worrying you. You're not focusing on the thing that you're most concerned about. Would you say that you find the same thing, like being able to say, turn your brain off or something? Would you agree that meditation helps turn the brain off or help shift that focus?
No, you can never shut your brain off. The falsity. So, but you can make choices. That's what it does. It allows you to create a space. And when you create that space, you can make choices. We're all habit based, and it's by design, because if we didn't have these habits, we wouldn't know how to tie a shoe. We automatically know how to tie the shoe because we have these habits. We know exactly how to tie a shoe. And if we didn't, our brains would be like the size of, we wouldn't be able to do anything. So we create that space, and then we're able to replace a behavior that we don't like with something else. And we don't want to replace it with something that's bad. Like if we eat and we don't want to eat, we want to replace that bad eating habit with something else. We have to practice at what we want to replace it with. So it basically creates a space so that we can make a choice. And that's what meditation is all about. And that's how I teach it. And it's about quieting the mind, but you can't ever shut it off. You can't fully quiet it, but you can calm yourself enough that you can take a pause. That's the best way. And I've got a great story that I can tell about a candle flickering in a dark room, because when a candle flickers, you can't see anything really. But when it stops, you can actually see things in the room. And that's the difference
Oh,
between um, the mind going crazy and the mind calming down. And
I love that analogy.
it's a great story. Yeah.
It is. It is. I love that. I've never thought about that before. Like the Kindle flickering and not being able to see anything and
Yeah.
focus. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Thank you so much, Jill. Does anyone else have questions for Jill? We are a quiet bunch, aren't we, today?
Sometimes
That's
it's just
totally,
taking things in too, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. I really want it to be like a safe place where you feel comfortable sharing whatever it may be. But if you are not ready to share and you want to just like observe and stay quiet, that's totally fine too. Yeah. So I'm just glad that we're here, having this conversation, which is so needed. So I'll go next. I love how both Jill and Karen mentioned how they each felt that something was wrong with them. And my story is very much the same, where I felt like there was something wrong with me. Seemed like everybody else or having a great time in life. They're laughing, they have tons of friends going out or whatever. And I was just not feeling like I was having a good time inside. It was like chaotic. What is this person thinking about me? Do they like me? Am I coming off the right way? Did I say something right or wrong? Did I say something wrong? All those thoughts were constantly that overthinking pattern about what other people think about me, how other people see me, how I would be perceived. It had always been an issue for me, and it made me feel very icky inside. And I never truly felt like I belonged. I was comfortable in my skin. It was always very like buzzy. I would feel that buzzing feeling, just discomfort within my body. And that feeling got intensified around in 2014. I had a brand new car. My daughter was, the best kid she could be, and I was in a great relationship. Everything in life was like wonderful, and I felt like, oh, I should be happy. Like I have the things, I have the family, the car, like major stressor going on. Like why am I not happy? But I was like, oh, depressed. Like it was so hard for me to like get up and do the dishes, get up and even take a shower sometimes. And I started asking like, what's wrong with me? Like why do I feel that way? And my partner at the time got me to see a therapist. The doctor who referred me to the therapist was like, yeah, that's anxiety, and you can take this forward. And this is the person you can talk to. She's a therapy. We'll have a conversation. I did not take the medication only because I'm from Haiti. I'm a Caribbean. I'm an island girl. So I believe it was always tea, compressions, natural things that I grew up on. And if I was ever sick, there would be a vapor rub, steamer thing, some type of home remedy that my grandma would do to help me feel better. So I just didn't feel comfortable taking a medication. So I said, let me just go and talk to the therapy. And therapy did help me because it really got me to talking about things that I was not verbalizing before, things that were bothering me that I wasn't aware that were having the effect on me at that present moment, even though they were things that had happened like years ago. So then I started learning, but then it got to a point where I was just tired of talking about the same things over and over and over again. I was like, well, I'm still in therapy for almost 2 years and I'm still waking up anxious. I'm still having these issues. Like something's gotta give. Like what else do I need to do? So that's when I started doing more research, talking to different people, going to support groups. And then I found coaching. Coaching was life changing. Not only I started understanding how my brain works. I started understanding the power of thoughts, the power that my thinking has on me, like why I feel the way I feel. I started learning about things I can't control, things I cannot control, and understanding that I have a choice where I put my focus on. Depending on where I put my focus on, that will affect my mood, it will affect everything. Coaching is what really simplified everything and made it make sense to a point where I could actually practice those things on a moment by moment basis. and really not just learning to manage anxiety, but work on myself enough to get to a point where the things that were triggering is no longer triggering to me. And I'll give you an example, like something that used to trigger me a lot was like big crowds, standing in front of a group of people and having a conversation. I would be in my head focused on what are they thinking about me? Am I the right person? I don't belong. What if someone find this about me or that about me? What if I say the wrong thing or pronounce something the wrong way? As someone whose English isn't her first language, right? So that was a concern for me. I was more so in my head overthinking. And I forgot exactly where I was going with this, actually. But what I do want to say is that whole process, it taught me how to manage my mind. Like going to therapy, finding coaching, it taught me how to manage my mind, that the things that were a problem are no longer a problem. The things that were producing the anxiety are no longer producing anxiety. And I understand my mind enough. I know Jill talked about mindfulness, being aware of my thoughts, right? What am I thinking about at any given moment? Understanding that, the choice is within me. I can choose my thoughts. I can choose where I put my focus on. And when I do that moment by moment, I can really have a transformation. Like I had that transformation. So that's what really helped me. And when I started experiencing so many wonderful results, getting comfortable in my body, feeling comfortable speaking up in meetings, and certain things I was doing that I could never have done before, like before I started really working on myself, I was like, oh my God, more people need to know about this. More people need this. And so I got certified. That was back in 2020. I got my coaching certification and I really started helping other people. I was doing coaching for free, coach a bunch of people for free. And I'm like, okay, well, I have to make a living. I have to pay some bills. So then I kept working on myself, getting comfortable to receive while I give. So that was a whole other process. And that's where I am now. I help people overcome anxiety. And that's something I say often. I don't help people just manage anxiety, but I help people actually overcome anxiety just by their thoughts and their awareness alone. So that's my story.
Judy, I have to say it's so funny because I love just hearing your journey and can relate to so many aspects. And one of those things is when we're in our head, even when we're with other people, it's like I remember somebody saying, we think everybody's thinking about us and judging us, and they're probably doing the same thing to themselves that we're doing to ourselves. People
Yeah.
think about you a lot less than you think they do. But one
Yeah.
of the things that just struck me was, as you were sharing part of your story, when you said, "I forgot where I was going with this," and then you continued to roll instead of that was a perfect example of what you were just sharing. What are people thinking of me when can I speak? Am I gonna say the right thing? You gave this example in real time of catching your loss of train of thought and not getting stuck there anymore. It was just like you transitioned so beautifully. And so it's kind of like that. It sounds like what your coaching does is it gives you these tools, but then it happens in real time at a certain point where you're not even thinking about it. It just happens. I'm sure there's conscious thought around
Yeah.
certain things too, but yeah, can you share more about that experience for yourself of what it was to go through coaching and then to just live in that place of that transformation?
Yeah, thank you, Karen. That's such a great question. Thank you. So, through coaching, the first thing that really made such a major impact on my whole journey, I would say, is understanding that what I think about myself is what affects me the most. Because I was so focused on trying to manage other people's opinions about me, getting them to like me, getting them to relate to me or understand me, right? Wanted to do the politically right thing or say the right thing, that I was caught up in their experience or what are they thinking about me. But once I understood that it's what I think about myself, that it makes room, it creates this space so I can be authentic and other people can connect with me, right? Because there's no way we can have a great connection if, like you're pouring out your heart to me and I'm like concerned about how you're seeing me and not really like listening to you, right? Yeah, like it was the thing that really helped me too. And yeah, as you said, the understanding that we all doing it, like we're all in our head. We're all thinking about like we can only experience life through the self. Great
Yeah.
question. Thank you.
Yeah. And the stories that we tell ourselves, it's not really the story that is. But what I love about you, Judy, is that when the three of us get together, you put on your coaching hat and then you apologize for putting on your coaching hat, and sharing, I love that you put on your coaching hat. And I think it's like 2 years ago that we met, or a year and a half, and I
Yeah.
found you through, and I just saw the connection of what I did with you, the two of you guys. And it's been an honor to be working with the two of you since then. And I think we can make a big difference in a lot of people with the three different views of dealing with anxiety. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been thinking about this too, Jill, how there's so many different paths to the same destination. It's not just one road leading to a destination. So many different paths. For some people, Karen mentioned like, when she was explaining her journey, how she had to take that one small step, something that could help her to start to feel better and build up from there, right? And for some people, that's necessary. Medication does that for some people. Supplements, if you're looking for something holistic, less side effects, going the natural way does that, right? And for you, like, being able to, I know some people who are so angsty, they're so anxious, they would not be able to sit still through a meditation. It's a step-by-step process, right? And I think we're a great representation of that because we each like we're all dealing with anxiety here, but we have our own approaches and all of it works, right? And that's where people I feel would need to determine where they are. Where are you in that process? Right? Are you having so many physical symptoms that you just want to feel better? Like, would it be easier for you to just take something and feel better? Right? You feeling better sometimes, but then you're having panic attack, anxiety attack some other times, are you able to sit still and try meditation one day? Or are you aware of your thought process? Like, have you gone through that steps? Are you meditating but not being consistent? Are you taking the supplements and other stuff but not being consistent? Or maybe you are being consistent with those things and you're still feeling anxious. What else is there, right?
Right.
I'm so honored to be walking with you two as well. And I say this often to you both that I could not be doing this alone. You guys are amazing. Karen has been with me since the very beginning in the community. And then Jill, as she mentioned, like joined us about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And we're helping people. And I feel like it's helpful because people need to know. Like if you don't hear other people's opinions and stories and the things that they're suffering from, you may feel like, oh my God, this is only happening to me. Right. I think the one thing we all have in common is the feeling that, oh, something's wrong with me, right? And I know for many people, many of my clients who come to me, and for both of you, I'm sure like everyone's like, oh, what's wrong with me? Why do I feel this way? And when you can hear other people's stories who express the same and how they were able to manage that or overcome that, then there's hope, right? And I think that's what the intention is here, sharing hope. I'm going to take a moment to read the chat. Lauren has been sharing, and I have not been reading it. So let me do that.
Well, you
Yeah.
beat Judy. One thing I just wanted to offer, and I'm so happy the four of you have joined us live today. And thank you for, first of all, for taking the time and the trust to spend your time with us. One of the things that I think of within this group is all of us wanting to be in service. And if you care to share anything about this, either verbally or in the comments or down the road in one of the posts that you see, one of us do. I would love to hear your thoughts on this because I think about like the connection, even this in this little group right now this morning is meaningful. And sometimes how do we connect in a Facebook group in a way that's meaningful and actually moves the needle for you in some way that makes it worth it for you to show up either here or in that group? Because sometimes it can feel anecdotal, I think, if somebody's saying, hey, this is what worked for me, or this is a suggestion of something that might help you feel better. And yes, Jill, Judy, and I all work one-on-one with people or in groups with people kind of thing. One of the things that I often will offer is a 15-minute session that I don't charge for to connect one-on-one because to personalize that experience, like what is your story? What resonates with you? And what is your gut telling you is going to actually move the needle for you instead of being in this washing machine of here's this idea, this is what worked for me. Maybe something sticking a little bit or not sticking at all. It's just you're hearing other people's experiences. I felt like I'd rambled there for a little bit, but if you have thoughts on how we can make more of a difference for you in this community, please share that. That's ultimately what I want to say. You can direct message any one of us at any point or ask a question in the group or make a comment, but ultimately, I think that's what we really want is to somehow make a difference for you. And if you have some insight for yourself on what that might look like, please share that with us because ultimately that's what it's all about. It's not just being in a community with like-minded people or people that have experienced or understand what you might be going through, but how can we actually really help you? And so think about that. And if you have thoughts, please share that.
Yeah, I love that, Karen, because everyone's journey is different, right? What worked for me may not work for you. What worked for you may not work for me or someone else. So it's really an individualized journey, and that's why I love working with people one to one. All of what you said made me wonder if everyone here is from our Facebook group, because I know I promoted this event on my Facebook, like my personal Facebook, and on my email list. And I know you both had been sharing too with your communities. So I'm curious to know where everyone found this event. And you can put it in the chat. I'll read Lauren's comment, the last comment she posted here, because I feel like it's important, right? A lot of people experience the same. They have the same questions and have the same experience, similar experience. So Lauren said, this might not be the place for this type of question. It is, okay? It's totally fine. And she said, in my case, some of the triggers that used to bother me have faded out through therapy, but I still randomly get anxious for a few hours or so if I think about past events or something happens in the moment. What experiences do you have to ground yourself during those times? In my case, I overanalyze past events or feel physically anxious for a few hours past a hard event. I am often okay the next day and bounce back. The first thing that popped to my head is what an amazing awareness. It's so wonderful that you have this awareness because awareness is key. Awareness is everything. If you're not aware of something, then you won't be able to address it, right? So here's what I would say quickly about this. Anxiety is never random, although it may feel random at times. It may feel like it comes out of nowhere. It did come from somewhere. As you said, something that you were thinking about before, something that happened, right? And those thoughts that you are thinking about it, what you're making those events mean, even what you're making your thoughts mean. Sometimes someone will have, let's say, negative thoughts, Nothing is neither positive or negative until we say it is so. But if you have a thought, you're like, oh, I shouldn't be thinking this thought. Like, what's wrong with me for thinking that thought? So not only are you experiencing the thought, but then you're judging yourself for having the thought. And our thoughts, they emanate frequencies that vibrate within our body that then lead to an emotion. So your thoughts, how you're thinking, your thought process will certainly affect the way you feel. So catching yourself analyzing past events and stuff, if you are aware of it, then you can shift your focus. How to ground yourself in those moments, I would say like that's where your coping skills would come in. Breathing techniques, yoga, meditation, going out for a walk. I'll let Jill and Karen share their thoughts on how they want to insert that question.
Meditation is great for that. It just allows you to just stop, take a pause, and it can really have you, like you said, you're fine the next day, but during that time, you're not. So if you can just stop and slow down, something called micro meditations, they're 3-minute meditations, and they're just for that purpose. You can just stop for 3 minutes and that's all you need. And if that works for you, great. If it gets you over that little hump, that's great. So stuff like that, you're giving yourself like a little piece of candy. Um, you're not sinking, so you're not needing to go through a lot of therapy, whatever. But the fact that you're aware of it, like Judy said, that's the first step, and just addressing it and taking care of it, that's super. So if you can just calm yourself, self calm, that's what you need to do. That's what I would do. I do that. So yeah.
I have a few thoughts, and it depends on my experience, where I'm at the time, because sometimes I'm going to start picking up more of the meditation because this is very intriguing to me. And I love what you've shared here, Jill. So sometimes for me, if I'm more in that space, I'll just throw myself on the ground, literally lay on the ground and in almost a surrender pose. But other times I feel like I wanna move the energy more, and so I'll do a lot of shaking or dancing. Basically, shaking is like dancing like you don't care, or really just shaking it out, doing the facial expressions. I think, a lot of people like to put on music. I was just having a conversation with someone, and it was like 3 songs, I'm transformed, and I'm dancing to my favorite music from the 80s or something, like, really just moving that energy. But some people, it's like you can do a bowl of cold water, or sink of cold water, and stick your face in it and breathe, stick your face in it again, but in 3 minutes, you can transform that and become not in that anxiety attack anymore. So it's like I have different tools at my disposal depending on what are my circumstances. If you're driving your car, you're not gonna shake or do the cold water or throw yourself on the floor, so you might do pull and enact a breathing technique. So just having those tools and finding those things that resonate for you. But I proactively will do shaking every morning. And it's like start when I'm in bed. Just stick my arms up and my feet up and just like start moving that, shaking off the night and starting to energize my body for the day. It's a thing that works because I do a little lymph routine first. And so I start moving the lymph in my body and start reconnecting with my body. But regular somatic shaking is what it's called, or just dancing till the cows come home. Those can be really useful. But I sometimes like that kind of the shock of the cold water on the face can be okay. I can move through this moment. Yeah,
Never tried that. I'm good. That sounds amazing.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I was just going to say too that the great thing about using the tool of meditation is you always have it with you, no matter where you go. Once you learn how to do that self calm, you always have it with you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Meditation, I found, can be as simple as becoming aware of your breath, right?
Right.
In the moment, just placing your hands on your chest
Right.
and self-soothing, right? Saying to yourself that I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm here in the moment. There's so many different coping tools and things that we can do to feel better. One question I would leave you all with is what would make me feel better right now? Wherever you are, if you're in a meeting, you start becoming aware of not feeling well, just uncomfortable in your body, what would make you feel better? Would it be scribbling? Would it be humming a tune? Would it be becoming aware of your breath? Would that be the easiest thing for you to do, right? But just
In
having the
yourself,
willingness, yeah,
depression, like you were saying.
yeah, having the willingness to feel better is really what is necessary here, I would say, right? So asking yourself that question, what would make me feel better? All right, ladies, we are coming at the top of the hour, and I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much for being here. As Karen mentioned, we each work individually with people, and it is free of charge. I offer it's 1 hour. My process is 1 hour. I help you figure out where you are, where you want to be, and what you would need to bridge that gap to get you from where you are to where you need to be. And Jill and Karen, they do the same thing. So please feel free to reach out to any one of us. You can find us on Facebook in the group. I was thinking we should put the link here. Well, if you wanted to connect with any one of us, you have a way to do that. And you can certainly connect with Jill, and I'm sure she will be able to help you.
Yeah.
All right, everyone.
Great.
Thank you so much. Any
Thanks,
last
everybody.
words?
Thanks for
Thank
joining,
you.
guys.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye bye.